if you have any questions, comments, hello, let me know where you are located. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this perhaps on a weekly basis until I can figure out when is a great time for everybody. It used to be that I know the weekends that's the only time it's quiet here, but the weekends, everyone's busy, and I haven't had the opportunity, and so we gave that up. But I figured, you know what we can do. Ooh, I just realized that my glasses are a little bit weird. What we can do is send me some questions. I will post them here, and then thereafter share them a later time so that you can watch. So I think we're going to try to make this work. The farthest place in this past week was from Uganda. So tuning in from Uganda, thank you very much. I can answer any questions about jewelry making, wholesale. I love talking about business strategy. For those of you who don't know, and I use it to flex because that's the only thing I got out of it, basically. I did an MBA at U of T's, University of Toronto's Rotman School of Business, which is supposed to be really posh. And I studied finance. So I love talking about strategy, finance, numbers, etc. Okay, so today I want to let you know the questions that I've been getting, and I get a number of questions throughout the week. And this one is from Paola from Italy. Ciao, come stai? And what her question was, and just a little bit of background, she had purchased an Orion Impulse a while ago, not from me, and she's been welding. She wants to buy another and wants to expand. But her question was, and she really likes her Impulse. Her question is, sometimes I get, she says, sometimes there's a snap that's bigger. And she's otherwise very happy, and she wants the same welder. There's a snap that's louder, and there is more, she says, blackening, so oxidation. Is this normal, or why is this happening? Because the louder snap sound doesn't happen often, but once in a while it does. And also once in a while it's a lot darker, and she can't clean it with a brush. Most of the time she can clean all of it with a brush. So I'm going to explain. So there are two questions here, but they are actually related. The blackening is oxidation, and you can minimize this with argon gas, but I'll talk about that a little later. With the blackening, basically it is like if you see a fire, there is black soot. That is oxidation with oxygen burning, and there could be particles there that are burning, microscopic particles burning, and then the result is oxidation. And sometimes that is darker, and you'll see that with fireplaces and whatnot, that char, the coating. And in micro welding, you will see that in the electrode as well as on your jump rings, say if you're welding jump rings. And most of the time you can clean it with your fiberglass brush. However, what causes it and what makes it stick a little bit more are the oils. So for example, if you got sunblock, or in Canada lots of hand lotion because we're so cold and dry here, that gets onto the jump ring. So, and that's burning. It's like oil burning. Anytime you see that oil burning, you'll get more smoke. So it is effectively the residue from smoke. And I find that mixture of oil and that smoke, it really does stick, and it's gummy, and you have to use the brush a little bit harder. But I have found what is really effective, especially when you are welding jewelry. Say, if you see my videos where you're welding, there's on a pearl or something, and the stone gets dark around it. All you have to do is use dish detergent or mild soap, even the hand soap, and I wash it, and it comes clean. So I hope that answers your question. It is burning oil, residue, creams, and whatnot. Try to keep your jump rings clean and free, and sometimes you can't help it because you're handling a lot of it. Handling before putting your pliers to clamp onto it. But quite often I see people, and I do the same thing with a dish, and I'm swirling around with my finger looking for the right size jump ring. Try to keep that to a minimum, and not to worry about it. If it does get dark, you can actually use a bit of soap and maybe hand sanitizer to remove that, to clean it with maybe a cloth later. So that minimizes it. And for sure, and again, we'll talk about argon gas in a moment. Oh yeah, next time you come joining me here, please bring a cup of tea, coffee, relax. Now, going back to what she was saying about the welder sometimes having a snap, and she's really happy with the Orion Impulse. Oh, by the way, the reason why she was asking is she wants to buy another Impulse from me this time. Grazie. Oh, by the way, you don't need to purchase anything from me. I appreciate you supporting and tuning in. That's not, you get your questions answered whenever I get a chance. So it's not to do with whether or not you do buy from me, but I really do appreciate the support. So going on. Once in a while, there is a loud snap. And again, it's related to either the electrode being dirty or some sort of particle, lint. And the other thing is, if it is the case that you're not cleaning the electrode regularly, so there is a bit more soot, gunk buildup from the smoke, etc. That's natural. You just need to sharpen and clean on a more regular basis to minimize that. But maybe it's just me at home, but have you ever, when you're vacuuming or if you're plugging something in to a plug into the socket and it is rather dirty or whatnot, you go in and you hear, okay, I noticed, because my place is filthy with kids and it's dusty and I'm the only one who vacuums. I pull the plug, I plug it in, and you hear that I have noticed that happens, that snap, the electricity, the current, well, the dust gets burnt and there's a snap. Now I'm sure there is a more technical explanation for this, and I don't know what the term is, but basically I have found that with the electrode, if I've been lazy and I take a Kleenex and I wipe it and I'm doing some other things, and when I weld, it's either dirty jump ring or there's filament or whatnot, I do get the snap. Or the third try, or you're welding on top of welding without cleaning, the buildup of the soot causes the louder snap. Now, that is very different though from, I know that the Asian, I call it no name brand, but I'm sure there's a name, the Asian welder, that is that big, tall, gray box, that I know has a very loud snap, and that has to do with current, and there's a control issue, but that's different. We're talking about sunstone, which is very safe, and the snap is just burning of particles. That's what causes it. Keep it clean, try your best. So now I'm going to circle to talk about using argon gas. And I had filmed a video a while back about it's not absolutely necessary. And I wanted, and I'm going to give you, at some point, I'm going to send a link to my YouTube video that I had originally filmed. And what it was that I felt, I did a test, there is not a huge amount of difference in terms of minimizing oxidation if you keep the surfaces clean. And I don't see a difference in terms of whether it is that strong. So that was my idea. However, I got a lot of, that incited a lot of controversy, because what it was, and a number of engineers have written in and say, do not ever tell people not to weld with, don't tell them to weld without using argon gas. It is unsafe. It's brittle. It is against everything we've learned in school, etc. And I understand. So what I did was I actually went and asked the Sunstone people and the product manager, Thane Kennedy, because from all of my experiments, there was minimal, I couldn't really see the difference. And argon is great to have, I get it, and it actually minimizes oxidation. But I was saying, well, there's a cost with it, and also convenience factor. If you are doing pop-ups, it's not necessarily possible to haul a tank. So once and for all, I'm going to first read to you what his response is. I'll quickly, because it's long, but I'll read it, and then I'm going to tell you thereafter the experiments I've done and some of the comments I've received, and I followed up, did some research, and tested it here. So here we go. Said that the benefits of argon is less noticeable in permanent jewelry than in other forms of welding, so industrial welding, because the size of the weld is so small, which is true. In large-scale welding, the welding systems would not work, and damage would occur if you do not use gas of some sort. And he goes on to talk about the noble gases, and I'll explain a bit further what that gas really does. But he said, simply put, in normal welding outside of jewelry, there is no application where gas is not required. It is universally used and required. And I know that is true. So, and just to give you an example of some of the welding that's done that you might notice, aside from the giant industrial I-beams, the shipyards, they do that. You see the bicycle frames and small machinery, the welding, they all use gas. And I'll explain further after what he said. He said, the main benefits of argon gas: it pushes oxygen away from the weld. So argon gas is a heavier gas than oxygen, and it's non-combustible. So it blows, and here, actually, I have this here. So there's a tube that goes in this, and it comes out of here, the gas. So you hear that click. When you're about to weld, you hear, if you've got it hooked on, it does a shh sound, and then it sparks. Then it zaps. The whole time, that pushes away the oxygen in around there, so that you get less combustion. Like there's the oxygen is not there for it to combust. Is really burning. Okay, there's no explosion of the oxygen. That's the idea. So said it pushes it away and prevents unwanted oxides from forming around the molten metal. So it sometimes you have in oxygen other particles in it that gets stuck into the molten metal. But having the argon pushing that away clears the area. Okay. So another point is it protects and prolongs the electrode tip. The electrode will remain sharper and last longer, which is true. Now, I find that the electrodes for the sunstone welders, they're not too expensive. And also, you don't need, some people are grinding it all the time. You don't need to sharpen that frequently. And they last for a long time. But I have another video on that about sharpening and what you can do. So another benefit of argon is that less porosity or holes in your finished welds. Oxygen and oxides cannot get trapped in the metal. Similar to what I've just said, and it's true. When all that is blown away and it's clear, that area, you're not getting all the contamination in it. The other thing is having it blowing, it cools down much more quickly. Okay. Pulse arc welding uses a plasma arc. This plasma is what generates the amount of heat needed to melt the metal. The ions in the gas are positively charged and help create a stable arc. Okay. I don't know what that truly, this is so small that I think it's great. Good to know, but I don't see the difference. So it's good to know that we don't need to know everything that goes behind it, but that it creates a stable weld. That's great. Now, another one is more consistency in creating welds and will be stabilized by the argon gas. So that's good. It is stable. I'll tell you a bit in a moment that it does do this. Sorry, can we switch off the electricity? So, sorry, I've got all sorts of machinery in here. I'm at the office kitchen. Yes, and sometimes little noises come up. Okay, more consistent welds and less misfires. Yes, I don't get as many misfires, and that wasn't for the Impulse. She wasn't getting misfires, but good to know. It does help if you are finding that. Argon will help metal flow better, less oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen contaminated the well flow. Yes. and I'll explain to you what I have found. So those are the points, and I'm just going to, at some point, I'm going to print this for everyone, publish this letter. They're saying that this is just an extra tidbit of trivia. Said that the key is to use a noble gas, and they're a total of 7, but only 2 but the others are far too expensive other than 2 of them, and the 2 are argon and helium that can be used for shielding gas. Argon is used on all metals and all applications. It's ideal for welding conditions. Helium is a bit more expensive and less effective for some alloys. And I've heard of that too. Okay, so that part. And I want to say that in my experiments since publishing my video, I have noticed, and a lot of people written in that, no, it gives you a stronger weld. Never ever say to weld permanent jewelry without argon gas. And that isn't true, and I verified it. It is great to have. Yes, it creates a stronger weld. That would really matter for industrial use. If you were welding some structural thing at a building, yes, I would like it to be strong. But when it is that tiny, the only difference, yes, it's a weaker weld, but all I did in my experiment was I increased the power setting by 1 or 2 watts, depending on the metal that you're using. And what I did was I did an experiment, and I created a video with a chart of what is the ideal power setting for welding different metals in sterling, gold filled, solid gold, 10 and 14 karat, and in different thicknesses. I did the same thing. So the ideal. So what I did was I weld, and then at as low of a setting as possible, and increased it. And then each time I tried to snap it open with 2 pairs of pliers, like that, which you should do after welding anyway, just to make sure it's secure. I crank it, and I go to the setting, the lowest setting that I could put, that will be secure and I cannot break. And then I go and take a look at the next power setting to see if it melts like a melty egg, if it melts away misshapens the jump ring. Sorry, in the background I hear someone calling. I get distracted easily. So I go check the minimum setting that to give me a secure weld, and then I go check 1 or 2 or half joules more to see if it is in fact the ideal weld. So when I did that, I created a chart and did that. Then I also did the same thing with argon gas. And I have found that with argon gas, effectively, you can have the same strength of weld at about 1 joule less in power. So yes, using gas gives you a stronger weld. That's true. But does it mean that you have to do permanent jewelry with argon gas? No, you don't. Because all you have to do is put it 1 watt higher, and it'll be just as strong, and as long as it doesn't open and it's secure, then you're good. Now, the difference though, which in the past I didn't notice, but as I I did the experiment thoroughly, I have found that it makes a difference. Aside from how it minimizes the oxidation so that it's easier to clean, what happened was I noticed that for the jump ring, if I was to use argon gas, it stayed the round shape better. Whereas in high power, without it, even at the same power, it would melt a little bit. So you're flat topping. I call it flat topping. So if you use argon gas, it flat tops less. And it makes sense because the gas, argon, blows away, blows on it, blows away oxygen, and it cools it much faster. And I find that makes sense to me. And I found it a smoother shape. Now, when it's that small, and if you test out the proper power range for your welder, if you're able to make a secure weld and figure out so that it's not overly melty, I think there's nothing wrong with using that. And if it's not convenient for you to bring argon gas to your location, then you don't need to do that. And for cleaning oxidation, use a brush. So that is my answer to that. Okay, how are we doing? All right, so I think I'm just going to pause here. This is a good first try, and I'm going to figure out in the future how I can do this without my reliable Andrea to be here, because then I could do it at other hours, maybe in the evenings during the weeknights. So it'll be great if you can comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from, whether or not this time works for you on a weekend. 1 p.m. Standard Eastern Time, that's New York time. And whether you prefer any other times. So we will go from there.